Welcome to Insights in Sound, where we talk to the people behind the scenes, behind the technology, and behind the music. People you may not know, but you should.
My guest is Dale Krevens. She is vice president and co-founder of Tech21, the makers of Sansamp, as well as a number of other fine products. Ooh, you like that? That almost sounded like a TV commercial or something. No?
They are rather fine, if I may say so.
They are rather fine, yes. And it's an interesting company because you guys have stuck in New York the entire time and stuck with New York, and it's even like, you know, part of your brand, you know, New York City, and I love that. You know, I think that's got a certain authenticity to it that I love.
It does, but we moved to Clifton, New Jersey in 2002.
Clifton, New Jersey is New York, okay?
I mean, it's 12 miles away.
Come on, that's the thing. You know, it's like there's Jersey and there's Jersey, okay? You know, there's parts of New Jersey that are Philly. Okay, but you guys are definitely, you are New York, okay, and you in particular, you know, you in particular, I know are New York.
Oh yes, I am.
So let's start with some of your own background. I know that you, I've asked you about this before, but for the benefit of people who don't know you, you don't particularly have a musical background per se, right?
No, not at all. I mean, I did try to play some instruments. You know, I started out on like a little plastic flutophone, and then I did a violin, which, oh my God, was so bad. But then I was inspired to play the drums when I was 10. That didn't go so great. Switched to piano, and then I finally said, you know what? I'm not doing this. So I sold my piano and I bought a sewing machine. But you know, my brother was a guitar player, and so. But even before that, music was always around the house, you know. So my parents were always playing music, Duke Ellington, and you know, West Montgomery, and all kinds of Lena Horne, stuff like that. So there was always music in my house, you know. And then my brother took up guitar when he was 15, and you know, of course, he eventually ended up in a rock band, and I was helping out. I was, you know, writing down lyrics to songs, you know, that they would play, you know, on the turntable where you had to keep going back. What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? So that was my job. I had to write all the lyrics out.
So you were their first manager.
Kind of. So anyway, so I always wanted to do something in the music business, but I couldn't quite figure out what. You know, managing was somewhat appealing, but it didn't pay any money, and I didn't know what I was doing anyway. And then I took a course in the business of music at the New School, which was a real snooze because it was all legal stuff, contracts and whatnot, which, I mean, that's an art unto itself, but it's not something that really appealed to me. I wanted to be lawyers. Yeah, I wanted to be involved with the music. Mm-hmm. So, you know, but nothing ever happened. And, you know, and so eventually I was in the hair business. I was in advertising. I was in marketing. But all the while, it's like I still love music, and I still go to shows and concerts all the time. It was just in my blood, you know, that's what I really love doing. So when I met Andrew, you know, we just started talking about stuff and found out he was a guitar player. I mean, it was uncanny how I would go places and meet people, even if it was not in a musical environment, and they'd always be musicians.
A warning sign.
Do I have something posted on my forehead? You know, like, I don't know. It was just weird. It was like I always seemed to attract musicians for some, I don't know why. And so, you know, we got to talking about business and this, that, and every other thing. And, you know, over the course of time of getting to know each other, he told me about this thing he invented. And I said, okay, what is it? And, you know, he explained it to me, and I kind of, you know, I gave him the hairy eyeball going, yeah, right. Okay, cool. I said, can I hear it? So he said, sure. You know, so he brought it over and he plugged it into my stereo.
Nice.
And he started playing through it, and I just sat there and I could not believe what I was hearing. And because of my brother and I going to all of his gigs, I mean, I used to carry I was the roadie also. I used to carry his guitar, proudly, like, I'm with the band. It was one of those, I'm with the band, you know? So, but I knew what I was hearing, and when I heard that, I said, that's insane. How did you do that? It sounded like, a cranked up Marshall stack from this little box. I said, wow. I said, what are you going to do with it? And he goes, well, I'm going to try and sell the technology. I said, oh, okay, cool. I'm thinking, holy crap, he's going to make a lot of money. Oh. Nobody wanted to buy it.
Really?
No, he took it to, he went to like the summer NAMM shows when they were in Chicago, and he went to Gibson, and he went to probably Fender. He probably went to Marshall. He went to like tons and tons he went to like a bunch of different companies, had meetings, tried to show it, and nobody understood, I mean, this was 1987, 88.
Still.
So
you would think that somebody would get it.
No, nobody got it. Huh. And I'm so glad they didn't.
Sure. Yeah. So maybe that was it. Maybe that was just the message, the message the universe is sending you is, no, you got to do this yourself.
Well, that's what I said, but he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a manufacturer. He's like, I want to play guitar. And I said, well, I'm sorry. This idea is too good. I said, you can't, I said, you cannot walk away from this. And he's like, but I don't want to do it. I said, but you have to. I don't want to, but you have to.
So basically what you're saying is that you guys became an old married couple before you even, like 15 minutes into it.
Right. So he did talk to a few people, and he got some artists on board, and this and that. And, he's like, well, all right, I'll think about it. I'll try it. What the hell? But, you got to help me. And I was like, well, yeah, of course. Are you kidding me? So, I mean, having an advertising and marketing background, I kind of had a clue what I was doing, and knowing what I knew about music, and I knew terminology, like I was just a sponge, like through every career, whatever it was that I was doing, I absorbed everything along the way. Mm-hmm. And so when I got laid off in a political maneuver in my advertising job, Andrew he jumped all over it. He goes, oh, now you come work with me. And I went, no. I said, you can't afford me. I said, forget it. I said, I'll come there for a couple of weeks. I'll do some new PR. I'll do a new brochure. I'll, make up some new ads. I'll do this and I'll do that,
So you're saying you came there for a couple of weeks in 1987 and you're still there. Yeah.
Well, was that? Technically, it was 1991 because he started the company in 89.
Okay, fair enough. It's still a bit over 2 weeks, but okay.
So, yeah. Well, so I did. It was October of 1990. No, 1991. Sorry. And, but I was helping him behind the scenes. I was doing everything behind the scenes, and I was using the artists at the ad agency to help put the ads together and place them in the magazines and do all this other stuff. Believe me, I was working. I was doing stuff.
So you were doing stuff behind the scenes well before you actually officially took the gig.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I never planned on doing it full time, because I thought this was, it was a one-hit wonder. I really didn't know it was going to go anywhere. So I figured, all right, I'm sick of doing what I'm doing. Let me take a break, because when I became available, I had 3 other job offers on the table. Like the next day, people wanted to hire me, and I'm like, no, I need a break. So I need a vacation. I'm going to Tech21.
So that shows a certain naivete there to think, oh, I can go into business for myself because that'll be so much easier.
Right.
Little did you know.
That's for sure. I was like, wow, did I not know what I was getting myself into? But I was actually very happy because it used all of my skills that I had acquired in my pinball machine path of a career, I mean, it's literally, I went back and it's like such a long story, to go from here to there, to there, to there. And I kept getting sidetracked. I'm like, well, this looks interesting. Let me try that. And it's like, no, I don't like this. Let me go over here. Let me try that. And because I did so many different things along the way, it really helped me, when I got there, it was Andrew, one other guy, and one assembler. that was it, But again, I was involved from before the company started because, hey, I named the Sansamp, so so I was there really early on. And believe me, I was mother henning the whole thing. I was watching every step of the way. I was asking a lot of questions. What's this happening? Who's doing this and who's doing that? And how are you doing this and how are you doing that? And, I was definitely hovering the whole process.
So unlike you.
Even though I wasn't, I know, right? So even though I wasn't physically there, I was there. I was watching over everything.
You brought up an interesting point, though. And I don't want to let it get by because I feel like it's a valuable thing to discuss. You talked about pinballing all over the place, and I've had a similar trajectory myself. I always, I'm fond of saying I'm on career number 5 or 6 at this point, but I think that this is something that I talk to some, shall we say, younger people, who say, oh, I need to have a career, and I need to, go to school to do this or whatever. And I think a lot of the most creative people do bounce around a lot because I think, part of it is really, sort of attention deficit generated. But I think, that even, I do think there's a fine line. And I think, I think the most brilliant, like Einstein and Da Vinci, a lot of those people, I betcha they're on the spectrum somewhere. Because I think that there's a certain aspect of what I call short attention span theater, which really, it does have to do with the fact that there are so many stimuli that are coming at you all the time. And if you're the type of person who says, oh, yeah, but that could be interesting, and, you get easily distracted like that, on the one hand, you never have a focused career. On the other hand, you just have this really wide focus. And I mean, to me, it's like, everything, same thing as you, everything that I do is based on stuff that came before. And it's all the culmination of your experiences. And I think, the fact that you pinballed around, as you say, look where it landed you. It landed you it landed you with the ability to handle almost anything that got thrown at you.
Yes. I'm almost, it's like if I hadn't gone that path, I wouldn't know what the hell I was doing. And this opportunity never would have come along. I wouldn't too scared to walk foot in the door. You know what I mean? It'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing, And and it's funny because when I was younger, I used to get mad that I couldn't focus on one career. It's like, oh, I really like doing hair. Let me open up my own hair salon. No. I want to be a fashion designer. Yeah, let me do that. No, I don't want to do that.
Yep.
Let me try this and let me try that. It's like I landed a job in an ad agency. I had no formal training in anything. You know what I mean? I just got the job. But I was interested, that's the thing. I'm a naturally curious person, and people that are curious, you learn a lot because you want to have answers. You want to understand how things work. You want to understand why did you do this and not that,
Right. And you end up being self-taught at a lot of different disciplines because you're not only curious, but you're observant.
Yes.
You're observant and analytical.
Really important. It's like you really have to watch and listen and notice different things that people are doing and how they're doing it.
Yep.
And and if it makes you kind of turn your head, it's like, why did you do it that way? I haven't seen anybody else do it that way.
Yep.
And then they explain, and then you go, oh, and then you file it away for the next time something like that comes up. And you always remember that because they say curiosity killed the cat. I'm sorry, I disagree, but
no, I disagree too. And I think, it's interesting to me to talk to another person that has had this kind of similar trajectory because, I've often said, I'm just a fan of letting the path light up as you walk, and it's really.
That's a good one too. I like that. Yeah.
It's really, there's a big aspect of that because to a certain extent, if this year has proven anything to her, or last year, thank Yeah. If 2020 has proven anything to us, it's that you can't count on anything. And,
Yeah, well, holy crap, yeah.
and, I think the
Holy crap. Is that okay to
unpredictable.
say holy crap?
Yeah, you can say holy crap. You can say holy shit. I don't care. Say whatever you want. There's no ratings on this show.
That's
Um,
right.
but, I think to me, that's one of the beautiful things about it is that no matter what happens, we can adapt because we have this ability to. And I think to a certain extent, almost anybody has that ability. I think, sure, some people are more focused than others, but I have this conversation with my kids a lot because they are, talking about their burgeoning careers and stuff like that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's interesting because, yeah, a lot of people, when you're young, you're frustrated because you see all of your peers getting into a job, staying in that job, being all focused and everything, and you feel like, why can't I do that? And
Yeah.
but I think there's a real beauty to not necessarily focusing or to focusing more widely.
You have to do what you feel comfortable with. I mean, it's like I look at, like, for instance, my dad, he had a lot of different jobs, and he was really good at them. He made a good living. We weren't rich, but we didn't want really for anything. And his brother got a really good job and stayed in it for, like, I don't know, 35 years, and he never moved from the one company. And it was funny because my uncle said, I really envy your dad because, he went to all these different jobs, and I said, but it's not better. You know what I mean? It's like, me as a bouncer, I used to get frustrated. It was like, why can't I just stay on one trajectory? It's like I would have been so much further, faster. I would have been making so much more money by now if I had stayed with one thing. But, I kept getting diverted. But in the end, I had a great time doing it. And I'm having the time of my life now because I could not have made a better job for myself. You know what I mean? It's just
And yeah, and I think there's a certain aspect of the grass being greener, in terms of just our
always.
perception of that, and yeah, I used to be envious of people who could stick with one thing, I mean, I remember I actually had I had a couple of jobs in the music industry, and I had one for a large Japanese conglomerate that shall remain nameless. No, I worked for Tascam for a couple of years. And,
Uh-huh.
there were some people there who had been there 30 and 35 years, and I found that both fascinating and at the same time frightening. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, you've been really coming to the same building, the same place for 30, and I mean, respect to you because you have done it and that's your commitment and everything. For me personally, I could not do that, and
Right.
maybe that is a certain lack of attention span, but I think there's same as you, I feel fortunate that I've been able to do so many different things, create jobs for myself, and kind of keep myself interested.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it's like days are never boring because I wear so many hats. It's like I don't do the same thing every day. I mean, every day is different, and every day there's some new fire to put out. There's a new wrinkle, or there's a new product we start talking about. It's like, oh, we're working on this, and it's like, oh, and then the creative juices start flowing. It's like, okay, well, what's it going to be called? And well, we don't know yet. And I'm like, okay, great, because I'm usually involved with that too. Obviously. I mean,
Clearly.
I'm involved with everything, choosing which knobs to use, and what color LEDs, and things like that. I mean, that's like my fingers are in all the pies. I co-design the cosmetics and the graphics. I do Photoshop, I do, Illustrator, and I do the writing. And it's like, so I never have a boring day. It just doesn't exist, and plus I, watch the money. I have to deal with the employees, and I have to do this and I have to do that. And then, oh, the toilet doesn't work. It's like, oh, okay.
You really are mom, aren't you?
It's like, whatever. So,
So you came into this in 91, and at that point it was basically three of you?
four of us.
Okay, so at what point did you turn around one day and realize that, oh shit, this is really serious? We're like a real company now.
It's probably on our 20th anniversary.
Oh, last Wednesday.
You're right. I mean, I just kept going with it. You know, it was one of those things. It's like I didn't, honestly, I never thought about it. You know, and that's the other funny thing. It's like, you know, when you're immersed in something that you love and this is really fun, it's like you don't think about it, you know, and when the nice thing is that when you get the feedback from customers and stuff and they tell you how much they love your products and you know they're like, oh yeah, I have one of those and oh my god, it's great, it's my most favorite piece of gear. And you know that's when you really, that's when you start feeling like, okay, this is really real. And, you know, because we had an uphill battle, you know, when we started, we had to do a lot of educating, you know, with the whole, you know, everybody was a tube amp snob, you know, and it's like, oh, how could you get that sound from a little box? You know, you're full of shit, you know, and it's like, no, listen, oh, yeah, oh, wow, that's really great. You know, so you have to go through all this, but you have to have a lot of patience and you have to say a lot, talk a lot, you know. But now it's like you just say Sansamp and people go, oh yeah, you know. So to take that, you know, from out of thin air that no one ever heard of it and being able to educate all these people, taking the time, it took years, you know, and you know, it became a household word amongst musicians, you know. And that's like one of the greatest achievements, you know, which of course, you know, I cannot take full credit for because, you know, all I did was name the thing.
But I think to your point, you know, that's really, it's like, you know, all of a sudden you turn around one day and you realize, oh shit, yeah, you know, so like it'll be a random comment from somebody like, oh yeah, I know you guys or whatever it is, you know, it's like the first time you hear your music on the radio or something.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's so
and I
funny.
think it's interesting, you know, the way you've been able to build that over such time,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And I, you know, and none of us ever take it for granted. You know, it's like that's the thing. There's a certain spirit, you know, and excitement that we all have in the office bed. The next new product, you know, and what are we working on and how can we improve this? I mean, it's not like, you know, we make a product and we just go, okay, goodbye. That's the end of that. You know, like we keep trying to figure out ways to improve things and make it just a little bit better, you know, and it's always a challenge, you know, and the fact that people still want the classic, the original first one, which we are re-releasing by the way this year, which is that should be out soon. I have to get my press releases out. Don't pressure me.
Ooh, that's exciting.
You know, the GT2 has been out since 1993. We're still making it. We never stopped. The bass driver, you know, it's gone through a couple of different variations since 1992. It's still going, you know, and the Minnie Mouse, it's like, it doesn't do anything. It's just program changes. And it's been out since 95 and we've never changed it. And it's still going to this day.
But you know what you also have that I think is really interesting is that you have this certain camaraderie with your customers that's not all that typical, you know. It's like everybody's family.
Yeah. And we talk to everybody, you know. It's like, no, we don't.
I know, I've seen you at trade shows, you know. It's like social hour, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I'll talk, you know, if there's a kid in the booth, you know, and he's asking questions, yeah, I'm happy to talk to him. It's like, he's probably not, you know, our primo customer because our market tends to skew a little older because our products are a little more sophisticated than, you know, the $69 pedals out there. So, which is fine. But, you know, you got to cultivate these people and you have to educate them and they need to understand why a $69 pedal is only going to be satisfying for like 4 or 5 months if it lasts that long, you know, and it's like, fine, you go play with that for a while. And then when you're ready to step up, you come here.
Yeah, you know, that little kid could be the next Eddie Van Halen, right? Who knows?
That's right. You never know, you know. Yeah. So that's the beauty of it. And I love discovering new talent, you know, and getting to know these people, and it's just fabulous. I love the people. Most, you know, like, you know, 95% of them are fantastic. There's 5% that's like, go away, leave me alone.
Oh, you know them too, huh?
Yes, we all do.
That's great.
I'm sure we can compare names when the camera goes off.
Oh, we would never do that.
No. And they have no clue who they are anyway. Trust me.
It's true. Actually, they're the ones that would never guess. But anyway, so let's talk a little bit about where we are these days. You know, you get a lot. You know, you talk about young people coming to the booth and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
What do you think it's like for the youngins starting off in this environment? And you know, what kind of, you know, would you advise somebody else to do the same thing that you've done, to really chart your own path like that, to be a pinballer?
You have to have that kind of personality. You know, you can't force yourself to be a pinballer any more than I could force myself to work in an office my whole life. I mean, you know, like, you know, what do you call it?
I don't know, Dale. What do you call it?
Talking about a standard office, you know, where you have secretaries and, you know, meetings,
still have those?
board meetings and stuff like that. You know, like, I don't know, the financial world. I mean, if you're in the creative world, if you're a creative person, or even if you don't actually, you don't have to consider yourself a creative person, because, you know, creative doesn't mean, you know, being able to paint something or being able to play an instrument. You know, and I never really considered myself a creative person because I didn't do any of that, you know, musically. But yeah, I am, you know, because I write, I design, I do all of this other stuff. And it's like, there's a lot of creativity. I'm not making music, but there's a lot of creativity that goes into, as you said, the background, the back end, you know, to create the products that create the music.
I mean, in general, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because even when I was, you know, a musician in a rock band, as, you know, a teenager, whatever, you know, I was always fascinated by things like, you know, jingles and stuff like that. Not that I ever thought I would work in that field, but, you know, there's a validity to, let's say, the Clio Awards, for example.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea that, you know, to my mind, if you're a marketing person, you're by nature creative.
Right, right.
You know, there are so many different disciplines that have creativity as their core. And it doesn't have to be art in the traditional sense, you know?
Right. No, that is very true. But you also have to, you know, you have to also be the kind of person, you have to have some sort of, it's a mixture of confidence and balls. Is that the only way I can describe it? You know, and I don't mean arrogance, because that won't do in any business ever, anywhere. But, you know, and even a little bit of fear, obviously. You know, it's like you know, you got to be, but you got to have the courage to go forth and do it. That's where the balls come in. You know, it's like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and do this and see what happens, you know, and just grab it and go, you know, and just don't be afraid. Everybody's so afraid these days. That's the thing that I'm finding, is it's a lot of fear. And what are you going to do? You got to always ask yourself, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? You know, it's different from having a fear of, you know, bungee jumping. I mean, wow, or jumping out of a plane. That's like, yeah, no. But you try something, and what's going to happen?
Well, and it's interesting that you mentioned that, because, you know, I mean, of course, you know, confidence and fear, they're two sides of the same coin in that sense. But
Yeah.
I'm really fond of that old phrase, you know, that confidence is a choice, you know. And
Yeah, it actually it is.
yeah, it really is, you know.
It is.
And I think that's, you know, that's something that, you know, when you talk about balls, that's what it is. It's just like, okay, am I going to take a chance?
Yeah.
You know, and if you do take a chance, well, as you say, what's the worst that can happen? You know,
That's what you have to ask yourself. What is the worst thing that could happen? And it's like, you know, I would try stuff and, okay, it doesn't work out. It's like, all right, next. What's next? You know, I mean, the thing is, a lot of people, they don't understand how confidence works. Confidence is just believing in yourself. They get confused. It's like, all you have to do is you have to believe in yourself, and that it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to fall down. It's okay to fail, because you're going to learn from it, and you're going to learn so much more by doing that. Because if you don't try to do anything, you're never going to learn anything.
And that's a failure too.
It is. And confidence is not something that's going to come from outside. I had a person who used to work for me. She was my secretary. And she kept asking me over and over and over again, like, am I doing a good job? And I said, yes. So she's like, really? And I was like, if you weren't doing a good job, trust me, I would tell you.
You'd be gone.
And that's right. You would no longer be here. So she's like, are you sure? And I said, look, stop. And I said, I cannot give you confidence. You have to know you're doing a good job. Do you think you're doing a good job? She said, yeah, I do. And I said, that's all you need. You have to know it. And she ended up starting her own company and being very successful.
Right on.
I was very happy about that.
Right on. Yeah. Well, and I think it's, and I think that's inspiring to watch other people, to a certain extent. It gives us all a charge,
Yeah, well, you think that, you think these other people, they have some sort of magic or some sort of mojo or something. And it's like, it's not that. You just go out and do it. You can't learn in your bedroom. I mean, well, today you have to, but you know what I mean?
Say, yeah. Depends where your laptop is.
But no, really, you learn by doing. You don't learn by, sitting in one room and reading a book or doing that. You have to be out there. You have to be talking to people, because everything is input. It's all input. Take it all in, digest it, mull it over, see what you like, what you don't like. Go with your gut. If things don't sound right, then you go do something. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it.
I think that trusting your gut aspect, that's not an easy thing to embrace, and I think that's, just trusting that the universe is going to take care of stuff. It's like that's the biggest anxiety that a lot of people feel. It's just, well, what if? And, if you think about it, the more you worry about what if, the more you're just wasting time trying to predict the future.
Well, it's not only that, but you're not in the present is what you're not.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I always say, I don't live in what if land. Because people ask me that all the time. What if? And I'm like, don't ask me that. Because whatever scenario happens, because you could, I call it mind fucking. You could mind fuck it all day. And you're never going to come up with the right answer, because you know what? Whatever you think is the what if, it's going to be different somehow.
Yep.
And you're going to get blindsided either way. So you just have to know, I'll figure it out when I get there.
And you have to be able to evolve with whatever comes up. I think, if you look at just, evolutionary science, the species that survive are the ones that evolve, whether it's growing a tail or whatever it is, But I mean, what? I have to have new genes. But seriously, I think the ability to just say, okay, whatever comes up, I'm going to roll with it, is probably a lot less paralyzing than all of the what ifing in the world, because ultimately, no matter, as you say, no matter what you think is going to happen, it's going to be a little different, if not a lot different. Yeah.
And then it may not happen at all. And then guess what? Look at how much time you wasted thinking and worrying about that.
Yep. Meanwhile, something else is happening.
It's like, you can sort of get a basic general gist of, well, all right, and be slightly prepared if it goes this way or it goes that way, but don't get bogged down in all these details and go crazy, you need to sleep at night, so just don't worry about all of this stuff, and know that you'll figure it out when you get there. You will.
That's great advice. Let me know when we get there, okay?
Okay. I love you. This is great.
I should probably have a closing statement so that I can cut this up later. Dale Krevens, thanks for being our guest.
Oh, thank you. I'm very happy to be here, and I hope some of the things I've said are helpful to your audience, you know.
I think it's very helpful. And, you know, on a personal note, I just love chatting with you because we really are kind of cut from the same cloth. And so, you know, it amuses me sometimes how well we relate on some of these points, you know.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. No, we could go, I'm telling you, we could go on forever.